So this is a culmination of a lot of things that have happened over the past 7 years of my husband's and my relationship. So I apologize in advance for how long this is and any typos. For background, there's a lot to go over, so I apologize. My husband, Casey, 32 years old, parents divorced before he was 1. His dad moved away after that, and his mom remarried, so he was primarily raised by his mom and stepdad. His dad lived in the southern U.S. for most of his life and had a brief stint in the town we live in when he was in high school, but didn't stay long. When my husband met me, 25 years old, 7 years ago, he told me that he saw his dad at most 4 times a year. We began dating soon after we met, and I met most of his family, including his dad, stepmom, and half-sister, during a family wedding about 3 months after we met. They all seemed nice for the most part. After the wedding, his dad offered to fly us out to where they lived for New Year's. During this trip, his younger half-sister, 13 years old at the time, behaved very strangely. She would hold his hand, smack his butt, and snuggle with him. I was very weirded out by all this, so much so that my mom offered to buy me a plane ticket home. I stayed the whole time, but it was very bizarre and no one corrected her the whole trip. But whatever. I can understand that some people have different relationships with their siblings. I will admit that I very much showed how weird I thought she acted, but she seemed to like me and often wanted to spend time with me when we were together. Over the next several years, we have more trips to see them and 2 trips out of the country with them. All are marred by his clingy sister and his father, who would disappear for hours to days at a time. No one we were with would react to it and acted like it was normal. Present day, Casey and I got married in March of 2023. His dad came to the wedding, but his stepmom and half-sister couldn't get on the plane because it was too hard to come back to where I live. They didn't tell us until the day before our wedding that they weren't coming. I looked past it for my husband, but it very much hurt my feelings and his. In June of 2023, we all take a family trip to a small Central American country. From the get-go, it was weird. First of all, their flight got delayed, so they ended up canceling their flights and didn't show up until 2 days later. Whatever. Then they get there and all they want to do is drink, which, hey, it's vacation. I get it. Do whatever, but they seemed annoyed that I wouldn't drink with them. I don't drink very often. I tried to keep my distance as to not be a buzzkill, but I felt like I was annoying them the whole time. At one point, we went to a beach and they were getting rowdy, so I went off to sit and read. And when I did that, his uncle followed me and called me a witch. I told my husband about it, and all he said was he didn't mean it. I was very upset about this and refused to go to dinner that night with them. I was telling my mom about this the whole time, and she was ready to call them because she was pissed about someone calling her child a witch for reading. A few other things happened on this trip that I can get into later, but to finish this part up, I told my husband that I don't think I can handle going on another trip with them again. Now to this month, my husband and I had chatted about going to see his dad's family. I know I'm a flip-flopper, and we had discussed seeing an NBA game while we were there. We chatted and moved on. 2 weeks ago, my husband came home and told me he was going to see his dad and go to an NBA game. I was told I wasn't invited. I asked if my name was brought up at all. He said no. I told him that I was intentionally snubbed. My husband and I argued for a while, which ended with him crying and saying that he feels put in the middle. I said that he and his dad's family intentionally left me out and that I am his wife. I told him he needs to pick a side, and if he doesn't, he's picking his dad. So, am I the idiot? I can provide more details if asked. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you're the idiot. You were weirded out by a brother and sister, alternatively horseplaying and showing affection for one another, and went on to make a big deal to everyone about how weird you thought it was. You are the weird one here. And I strongly suspect his uncle didn't call you a witch for reading, but for your standoffish behavior. Not saying that was proper for him to say, but stuff happens and tempers boil over when people don't like one another. Then, after you tell your husband that you don't want to travel with them ever again, you're upset that you weren't invited to see them. You're just looking to agitate and cause drama. You don't like them, and they don't like you. That's fine, and the world will go on. Your husband shouldn't need to pick a side. He can spend the vast majority of his life with you and visit them occasionally. Comment 2. You're the idiot. I honestly don't see where anyone other than the uncle deserves to be called out. It sounds like you just don't like them and are using whatever excuse you can come up with to justify cutting them off. Your husband and his dad going to a game without you is perfectly normal and is not a snub. And calling your mom to tattle? Are you 12? What was the reason that they couldn't get on the plane for your wedding? And why would the stepmom and weird sister not being there bother you so much if you don't even like them? It sounds like you have been storing up ammunition against them, and every little perceived slight has gone into that arsenal. Ultimatums are usually always a jerk move. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I've got quite the update for you all. Buckle up because it's been a hectic couple of weeks. After the whole NBA game incident, things between Casey and me were tense. We were walking on eggshells around each other, trying to avoid another blow-up. But as you all know, avoiding problems doesn't make them go away. Casey went to the game without me, and I stayed home feeling a mix of anger and sadness. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pushed out of his family. Meanwhile, Casey's dad and his side of the family were posting pictures all over social media, having the time of their lives. It stung, not gonna lie. Then, out of the blue, Casey's half-sister, who's now 20, reached out to me. She wanted to talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed, curious about what she had to say. We met up at a local coffee shop, and that's when things took a turn I never saw coming. She confessed that she had always felt a weird tension between her dad and Casey. She said she felt like she was competing for her dad's attention and admitted that her behavior towards Casey in the past was her misguided way of trying to fit in. I was floored. It was a lot to take in, and it made me see her in a whole new light. But that wasn't the twist. She also dropped a shocker that Casey's dad had been having financial troubles and had been borrowing money from Casey. I was shocked. Casey had never mentioned a word about it to me. When I confronted him, he broke down and admitted it was true. He'd been helping his dad out for the past year and didn't want to worry me. I was hurt he didn't trust me enough to tell me, but I also understood his position. He was caught between wanting to help his dad and not wanting to burden me with it. It was a tough spot to be in. We were just starting to work through that when Casey's dad called. He wanted to apologize for not including me in the NBA game trip. He said it was a misunderstanding and that he thought I wouldn't be interested. It sounded like a weak excuse, but I appreciated the gesture. Casey and I decided to give his family one more chance. We planned a small get-together at our place, just a casual dinner to try and mend fences. It started off well enough, but then Casey's uncle, the same one who called me a witch, showed up drunk. He started making snide remarks, and I could see Casey getting more and more upset. Finally, Casey snapped. He confronted his uncle about his behavior towards me and the money he'd been lending to his dad. It turned into a full-blown argument, with everyone jumping in. It was a mess. In the heat of the moment, Casey's dad admitted that he'd been feeling guilty about relying on Casey and that he'd been trying to keep his distance to avoid asking for more help. That's why they'd been so flaky with visits and trips. The night ended with Casey's dad and uncle leaving and the rest of us sitting in stunned silence. It was a lot to process. Casey and I talked for hours after everyone left. We realized that we needed to set boundaries with his family and that we had to be a united front. So, here we are now. Casey and I are working on our communication, and we're slowly rebuilding our relationship with his family. It's not perfect, and there's still a lot of tension, but we're trying. As for Casey's half-sister, she and I have actually become friends. She's been a surprising source of support through all of this. It's bittersweet, though. I'm glad to have her in my corner, but I wish it hadn't taken all this drama to get us here. My friend's dog wreaked havoc on my home, so I kicked her out, but she sabotaged my son's college course with lies. Our friendship is in ruins now. I, 45-year-old female, have a friend, 51-year-old female, who had asked about a month ago if she could stay with me for up to 2 weeks, from February 5th until no later than February 19th, because her daughter was pregnant and was supposed to give birth around that time. Due to complications, she ended up having the baby on January 31st. My friend asked if she could come down on February 1st. I told her sure. On the first day that she was here, she asked my level 1 ASD son, 25 years old, if he could watch her dog, because when she arrived, I hadn't gotten home from work yet. Now I was expecting her to arrive before I got home from work, so this wasn't a problem. She had asked him to watch her dog because she couldn't take the dog to the hospital. This is her service dog. However, the next day she left her dog here without anyone being here and without asking if the dog could be left here alone. And the next day, although her daughter was going home, she said she could not take the dog with her because she didn't want to stress her daughter. It was extremely cold and rainy that day, and she had asked me to walk the dog. I told her I'd try. My son and I have 2 cats, and the dog being here has caused a lot of stress for them. Not to mention that my son is in a college course right now made specifically for people with disabilities, and while I'm helping him with his homework, she'll start sticking her nose in our business. We've asked her to stop, but she still keeps doing it. Not to mention that her dog keeps on eating my cat's food after I've asked her not to allow him to do this. I've also told her the approximate times we'll need the bathroom in the morning to get ready for school and work. And this morning, she almost caused me to be late because she was in there so long. I understand that she is a new grandmother, but the dog being here is too stressful for our cats. Not to mention she keeps allowing her dog to eat our cat's food. And she got an attitude when I told her she would have to take her dog whenever she left now. We live in a crammed 2-bedroom apartment, and she is staying on the sofa. So would I be the AH if I asked her to leave? Edit. Thank you for all your replies and suggestions. They've all been helpful. With that being said, Tuesday morning I told her she needed to leave. She really didn't say much besides, okay. I felt slightly guilty for doing this because it is a fact that she had won to stay up here for her daughter. But I felt more relief than anything. So did my son. Not even 48 hours later, and our place is much more quiet, less crammed, and so much less stressful. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. A service dog should be able to go to her daughter's house. After all, it is a service animal for a reason. I would explain that it is too difficult for your cats and inquire if she could stay with her daughter or a hotel. Comment 2, I had a friend ask if we could dog sit for her for a week. I told her that I have cats. She said, oh, he's cat friendly. Yeah, my cats aren't dog friendly. They live here too. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks since I last updated you all, and boy, do I have some news. So after I told my friend she needed to leave, things seemed to settle down. My son and I were getting back into our routine, and the cats were finally coming out from under the bed again. But then, just when I thought we could breathe a sigh of relief, my phone buzzed with a message from her that turned everything upside down. Turns out, she didn't go back to her daughter's place like she said she would. Instead, she checked into a nearby hotel and had been stewing over being asked to leave. She accused me of being a terrible friend and said that I had betrayed her in her time of need. I was shocked. We had been friends for over a decade, and I had never seen this side of her. But here's where it gets juicy. Remember how she always had an opinion on how I was helping my son with his homework? Well, it turns out she had been secretly recording our sessions. She thought she could use the recordings to prove that I wasn't a good mother and that my son would be better off with someone else guiding him. She even went as far as to send these recordings to my son's school, twisting the narrative to make it seem like I was the one causing him stress. I was floored. My son has been making great strides in his college course, and for her to try and undermine our efforts like that was a low blow. The school, knowing my son and I well, immediately contacted me to discuss the situation. They were incredibly supportive and could see right through her attempt to stir up trouble. The confrontation that followed was something out of a soap opera. I went to the hotel to confront her, and she was unapologetic, saying she did it all for my son's own good. I couldn't believe the lengths she went to just because she was upset about being asked to leave. It was a betrayal that cut deep, especially coming from someone I had trusted. But wait, there's more. Remember her service dog that she left with us? Well, it turns out that the dog wasn't even registered as a service animal. She had been lying about that to take the dog everywhere with her. I found out when I called the organization she claimed had certified the dog, and they had no record of her or the dog. This revelation made me question everything I thought I knew about her. The fallout from her actions was immediate. Her daughter, who had been staying out of the drama, was furious when she found out what her mother had done. She apologized to me for her mother's behavior and assured me that she had no idea about the recordings or the fake service dog certification. As for my friend, she tried to reach out again, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. The trust was broken, and I couldn't see a way back from that. My son was understandably upset by the whole ordeal, but we've been working through it together. He's a resilient kid, and I'm proud of how he's handling everything. My wife lies about texting her old coworker late at night, so I demand to see the messages and we end up in counseling. Trust is hard to rebuild. Happily married for 15 years with 2 kids, Saturday night around midnight, she was showing me some videos on her phone when she got a message notification. She quickly swiped it away, though we both saw it. I didn't say anything but decided to go to bed, already a bit annoyed at how she did it. I asked who texted her so late and was told, I don't know. I mentioned she should look to make sure someone didn't need anything. She then told me, it's a coworker from my old job asking why I'm up so late. She left that job 4 years ago. I said nothing, just rolled over and ended up mulling things over for hours. Finally had a discussion about it yesterday, after not even being able to look at her. Of course, my mind is going all over the place. I asked when the last time they'd chatted, and she said a few months ago, and that they occasionally congratulate each other on promotions and such. Fine. But then I discussed how she openly lied to my face, knowing full well who messaged her and that the totality of the circumstances was hard to accept as innocent. I reinforced that I was deeply hurt about being lied to in such an open and obvious situation. And now I am wondering if I'd be out of line asking to see the history of their conversations. I don't think she's physically cheated on me, as she works from home and life and kids keep both of our schedules pretty full. But I'd be devastated if she had some sort of emotional affair outside of our marriage. So would I be in the wrong to request to see her conversation? I don't need to see her entire phone, just that one, and one step further. Would I be the idiot if I asked her to stop messaging this guy? I just think anyone reaching out at 12:15 a.m. to a married person like that is asking for trouble. Help me out, Reddit. My mind is going a million directions, and I'd like to either A, learn the truth, or B, figure out how to repair this. Update on the discussion. I began the discussion with, I have a shitty question and a shitty request to ask of you, but given the current situation, it's something that is festering in my mind. I then asked if the conversation was still in her phone. As many have suspected, it was not. She deleted. Why? Because I delete all old conversations. I then asked if I could see it, and she let me. It was all done via Facebook Messenger, so I attempted to find it in the archives, but it wasn't there either. I asked if she could click the messenger icon from his FB profile page, and she broke down about it being such a shoot situation. She vehemently denies any sort of inappropriate conversations, though admits there may have been innocent flirting in the past, which I'm fine with. People do it every day. She also says she hasn't exchanged any messages since at least October. But it took a lot for her to let me see the phone where there was a chance I find something more. To the point where I told her if I didn't see it, I'd assume the worst and would likely be looking for someplace else to stay the night. Not sure how to proceed from here. Trust is currently at an all-time low, and while I feel bad she's an emotional mess, it's a situation she put herself in, so I'm not overly compassionate about it. I wish there was another way to retrieve Facebook Messenger conversations, but as many said, it's likely long gone. I predict a long road ahead. I've already suggested some sort of counseling. Sucks that we've been almost entirely drama-free for the majority of our relationship, hardly ever fighting. And this is a huge bump, more like a crater in our road. I still don't think she's ever physically cheated on me, and her guilt and emotions make me think she's telling the truth about any type of emotional cheating as well. We shall see. Only time will tell. Thank you all for the advice and insight. Hoping updates are positive and few and far between, if any. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Few things. She knew who the message was from and lied to you about it. She is still in contact with a guy she worked with 4 years ago, and you just now found out about him. He is comfortable messaging her, a married woman, late at night. She deleted all the messages and records of messages from him. She did not want to click his messenger icon and admitted to flirting with him. She did not want to give you her phone to look at. And most importantly, she is truthing you about him. You know her best and need to do what you think is best, but my trust would be gone at this point. For me, it would be time to sit down and have a brutally honest talk with her to get the complete truth. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Ask to see her phone. Go into Facebook Messenger. If it's all deleted between her and the former coworker, you know exactly what's going on. If she outright refuses to let you look at her phone, you'll also know exactly what's going on at that point as well. I'm sorry, but I don't think this is going to end well. I've lurked on the infidelity subs too long. Facebook Messenger is a notorious cheaters app. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you. Remember how I was torn up about my wife's late-night message from an old coworker and her subsequent lies? Well, things have taken some unexpected turns. After that night, the tension in our house was thicker than the plot of a mystery novel. We were both walking on eggshells, barely speaking, and when we did, it was like we were strangers. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, and it was eating me alive. I started to notice little changes in her behavior. She was more guarded with her phone, and there were times she'd stay up after I went to bed, something she never used to do. It was like she was waiting for me to fall asleep. I couldn't help but wonder if she was talking to him again. One day, while she was showering, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. I know it's a breach of trust, but my gut was screaming at me. And there it was, a new messaging app I'd never seen before. My heart sank. I opened it and found a string of messages with him. They weren't explicit, but they were intimate, talking about personal stuff, things she hadn't even shared with me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I confronted her about it when she got out of the shower. She was shocked, and the look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She admitted they'd been talking more frequently, that he was going through a tough time, and she was just trying to be a friend. But I wasn't buying it. Friends don't hide conversations. We had a huge fight, the kind where you say things you can't take back. She accused me of not trusting her, and I accused her of emotional infidelity. It was a mess. The kids could hear us arguing, and that's when we both realized we needed to figure this out, for their sake, if not for ours. We agreed to go to counseling, which was a big step for both of us. We'd always prided ourselves on being able to handle things on our own, but this was beyond us. The counselor helped us unpack a lot of things, not just about the messages, but about our marriage as a whole. We'd been so focused on the kids and work that we'd neglected us, our connection. The counselor suggested a compromise that was tough to swallow at first. She proposed that my wife could continue talking to her coworker, but with boundaries. They could only chat during reasonable hours, and she had to be transparent with me about their conversations. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I agreed, on one condition, that I could meet him. So we set up a meeting, just the 3 of us, at a coffee shop. It was one of the most awkward experiences of my life. But seeing them together, I could tell there was no physical attraction. It was like watching 2 old friends catching up. He apologized for any trouble he'd caused, and I believed him. It was clear he was just a lonely guy who'd leaned too heavily on my wife for emotional support. Since then, things have slowly been getting better. My wife has been open about their conversations, and I've been working on rebuilding my trust in her. We've been spending more time together, just the two of us, trying to reconnect. It's not perfect, but it's progress. The kids have noticed the change too. They're happier now that the house isn't filled with tension. We've started having family game nights again, something we hadn't done in months. It's like we're finding our way back to each other, piece by piece. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who'd be okay with his wife talking to another man like this, but here I am. It's not ideal, but it's working for us. We're learning to communicate better and to be more honest with each other. It's a slow process, but we're committed to making it work. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.